GTA is under a winter weather travel advisory, and some areas could see between 5 to 15 centimeters of snow. And books of condolences are now available to honor Detective John Park, who died after having a suspected medical episode on duty last week. Well, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is chairing today's meeting of the Cabinet Committee on Canada-U.S. relations, despite increasing calls for him to leave office. Right now, it's 5 o'clock, holding at 1 below zero. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage. A winter weather travel advisory is in effect for the GTA as last-minute holiday shopping rush continues. CP24's Melissa Duggan joins us live with more. Melissa.
Hey, Bakari. So the second round of snow has officially begun here where I am in Scarborough right now. We knew it was heading our way, and it is now here just in time for the evening rush as well. So something to keep in mind if you're heading out there. As you're saying, between 5 to 15 centimeters is what we're expecting before it's all said and done. The bulk of it could be coming tonight. And of course, a lot of people hitting the roads, heading out for some holiday travel. So safety is something we want to keep top of mind. And because of that, we're bringing in Brian Patterson, the head of the Ontario Safety League, joining us live. Hello, Brian. Thanks for being with us tonight.
It's a night to remember for a lot of people who aren't ready for what's happening right now.
Yeah, okay, so help us get ready for this weather. You know, people might be hitting the road experiencing this snow driving for the first time in quite some time.
This is the nastiest time when it's just wet and cold enough that the road can become slick, often at stop signs, often at areas where a lot of traffic goes through and leaves stuff behind. This, as I've often said, this is a credit card. This isn't the scraper for your car. So you need to have a proper brush, a proper scraper, and commit yourself to clearing off the entire car. I see people that are, remind me of my old Army days. They scraped off this much space in front of their window, and the rest of it is sealed up. So clear your full car, plan properly. If you're already 20 minutes late getting on the road, you will not make that time up in the next 3 hours. So stop thinking you can, call ahead and let people know you're going to be 20 minutes late, and have all that you need in your car. You may be going in and out of an office, but not have your jacket. Have the jacket in the car. Have your scraper and brush in the car. Have a safety kit if you want to add additional. And make a jug of windshield washer fluid. Seems obvious, but when you're traveling down the road and that tank goes empty, you are a hazard to yourself and others.
Yeah, definitely some good tips there. Use that credit card for those last-minute Christmas gifts, not for cleaning off your vehicle. And we know, Brian, that cottage country, the parts of eastern Ontario, they could actually be seeing more snow. There might be people in the GTA that are headed out to those areas. What should they be doing to prepare?
They should be paying attention to the forecast that you're going to get from CP24 in the morning, at noon, at night, and after dinner. Things are changing all day long, and you can be driving into very inclement weather. It can even happen close. You can be on your way to Hamilton and hit a bad spot. You can be on your way to Newmarket, hit a bad spot. There are areas where there's a lot of snow is going to blow off open fields. So just remember, we're in Canada, and you want to drive safely, because if you don't have 4 winter tires on your vehicle for winter driving, stay home.
And Brian, the bulk of this snow we are expecting now that it's dark through the overnight hours. What sort of special consideration should people have during that time?
You want to be ever vigilant for other road users. There are still people that are going to be on equipped cycles, but I really think the key is for those pet lovers to make sure that people can see you, see your pet. Go to any pet store and they'll give you a reflective leash or reflective collar, and you can put a safety vest on when you're out at night. Do not be dressed in a way that makes you less visible as the sun goes down.
Yeah, definitely some great advice there. That's why I'm wearing the orange hat tonight. Listen, we appreciate that advice. Brian Patterson of the Ontario Safety League. Thanks so much for being with us, and drive safe out there.
Will do, and maple leaf hats are good in this kind of weather too.
Okay, another good safety and hockey tip. We appreciate that. So as we mentioned there, Bakari, the snow expected to stick around for most of this evening, but we are expecting some clearer weather in the days ahead. So if you can delay those trips, that might be something to keep in mind. But for the time being, we do have that winter travel advisory in effect with up to 15 centimeters of snow expected for parts of the GTA. Back to you.
All right, CP24's Melissa Duggan. Melissa, thank you. Well, another busy holiday travel day at Pearson Airport, and more snow's on the way, but airport officials say that they're prepared.
We are at the airfield maintenance facility, which is home to over 100 pieces of snow removal equipment. Now, just behind me is one of our plow sweeper blowers that will be deployed today on our apron, runways, and taxiways to clear the several centimeters of snow that we are expecting. Now, to our passengers, if you are planning on traveling today, we encourage you to check your flight status before coming to the airport. And of course, give yourself plenty of extra time to arrive here.
All right, looking at the numbers, Pearson is expecting to have 127,000 passengers pass through the airport. That's just today. And the TTC says that it's prepared for today's snowfall with extra employees and maintenance staff on duty. Extra buses will be deployed on certain routes if necessary, and some bus stops, many on hills, may be taken out of service depending on conditions. Well, all warming stations across the city are now closed. The 4 centers, they were open the past several days because of the cold. In an online message, the city says that staff are working to refer vulnerable individuals to alternate spaces in the shelter system. The warming centers provide access to rest areas, meals, and referrals to emergency shelters for those experiencing homelessness. And books of condolence are available for the public to sign for the Toronto police detective, John Park. The officer died of a medical episode while on duty last week. He leaves behind a wife and 2 young children. Park, who was 40, had been with the police service for 14 years, starting at 22 Division and rising to the rank of detective. The books are available at police headquarters as well as 22 and 33 divisions. Right now it's 5:08, holding at 2 below zero. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. A new government report shows that the number of registered early childhood educators in Ontario childcare programs is declining. CP24's Andrew Brennan will join us live after the break with more on this. A Ministry of Education report shows that the percentage of staff in Ontario childcare centres who are early childhood educators has been declining over the past few years. CP24's Andrew Brennan joins us with more. Andrew.
Yeah, hey, Bakari. So let's talk a few things here. So the proportion or the percentage of all the workers in daycares for registered ECEs has been going down as we're seeing more ECEs enter the industry. The reason for that is because overall there's more staffing because there's more kids that are getting daycare since the $10 a day daycare program was instituted, making it that much more affordable for most people to be able to afford to get childcare for their kids. With all that in mind, though, with the growing has also come growing pains. The wages for a lot of these registered early childhood educators, and I want to emphasize the R in the RECE acronym. There's a wage floor. They ultimately get just under $25 a day at minimum, but that's according to the, some early childhood educator associations and also daycare associations, not enough as a start, as a bare minimum, to retain people and also to attract new people into the profession. We have, like I said, been hearing a little bit of reaction coming from both of those areas, the associations representing ECEs and daycares. Here's more from some of those experts.
So the wage floor right now for RACEs is $23.86, and that started rolling out over the last year. So we perhaps haven't seen the full impact of that policy. However, our organization, alongside other advocates, have been calling for a salary scale or wage grid starting at $30 to $40 an hour. So the wage floor is still well below where the sector expects it to be, and where early childhood educators in some programs are starting with their wages. So there's still a lot of work to be done to really address the wage issue in ELCC programs.
And just to do some quick math here, Bakari, if you look at someone who's making $24.86, that's the wage floor for 2025. You know, we could say that's $25 an hour, 40 hours a week, $1,000 not take home. We'll get to that in a second. $1,000 every week, 52 weeks a year, 52 grand is their ultimate pre-tax income. If it was $40 an hour, that would be roughly $80,000. Again, this is pre-tax income. Will that be enough necessarily to encourage more to get into the profession? It's very demanding. I don't know if you know this, to take care of kids, and a lot of them. But that's one problem, according to Alana. There's more to be able to deal with. And then there's also the $10 a day program, which is having its own set of growing pains. Bakari, back to you.
Okay, CP24's Andrew Brennan live in the newsroom. Andrew, thank you. Well, the Cabinet Committee on Canada-U.S. relations will meet today with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau helming the agenda. The committee's back following the re-election of Donald Trump, who's threatened to impose 25% tariffs on Canadian products once he returns to the White House next month. Well, Trump has commented about lax border controls, as well as Canada taking advantage of the U.S. when it comes to trade deals. Well, it's now been 1 week since the shocking resignation of Chrystia Freeland, throwing Trudeau's government into fresh disarray. The calls for him to step down have only grown louder since then. CTV News' Rachel Aiello has been tracking the latest.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Those were the Prime Minister's parting words when he left Parliament Hill on Friday. With questions still swirling about Justin Trudeau's next steps, the Globe and Mail is reporting that he does not intend to step down over the holidays. Instead, the embattled Liberal leader intends to go on a trip with his family to British Columbia. While Trudeau may have plans to hit the slopes, calls have been mounting all week from within his caucus for him to take a walk in the snow.
I think people feel very negatively, or rather negatively, about all the options on the ballot if we were to have an election right now. And it would be nice to offer them somebody to vote for as opposed to against.
Ontario caucus members met virtually over the weekend, and of the more than 50 MPs said to be on the call, Liberals say not a single participant spoke in favor of Trudeau staying on. Since Chrystia Freeland's bombshell resignation 1 week ago, Trudeau has been seeking advice from those he trusts about next steps. Meanwhile, in a fresh fundraising email to supporters noting that this is going to be the last Christmas before the next campaign, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said his party has never been closer to defeating what he calls the NDP Liberal coalition. With Donald Trump taking office in less than a month, today Trudeau's itinerary had him taking part in a closed-door meeting of his special Cabinet Committee on Canada-U.S. relations. Though political observers say that while he may be planning Canada's counter to tariffs, it remains to be seen if Trudeau will still be the Prime Minister by the time they're imposed.
There's definitely a prospect of him stepping down after the holidays. I don't think there's much prospect of him remaining in office. I just don't know how he's going to be able to continue on. If he were to poke up on, say, January 6th and say, after this long period of studied silence, I've decided to remain, I'm the best choice, and I'm rallying the party behind me, he will find that the party is not there to be rallied.
The Supreme Court of Canada is being asked to decide whether it'll hear a historic youth-led challenge of Ontario's climate plan. It's the first case to be tried in Canada that considers whether a government's climate plan can violate the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Lawyers for the province say it's an excellent opportunity for the top court to clarify the constitutional obligations of governments to fight climate change. 7 young people say that the province's weakened emissions target violates their right to life by committing Ontario to dangerously high levels of emissions. Well, GDP numbers show that the economy was stronger than expected in October. Canada's real gross domestic product increased by 0.3% in October, with oil and gas leading the growth. Statistics Canada reports that goods-producing industries, mining, as well as oil and gas extraction, rose by 0.9% after shrinking for 4 consecutive months. Manufacturing also rose 0.3%.
When you're talking a 0.3% growth, which is about 1.7% annually, they're all within a couple of decimal points of each other. As I just said, mining and natural resources were strongest, but construction was doing okay. So was real estate. So there was there was nothing really standing out. In terms of a sector, the larger story, though, is that a nominal GDP has probably declined in November, yet again suggesting or showing that the economy is slowing down.
And the stronger than expected start to the fourth quarter may help calm some of the concerns about the strength of the Canadian economy. Well, Canada Post is working extra hard to catch up on parcel and mail delivery before Christmas. Some deliveries were made over the weekend, which is not normal procedure. International mail and parcels can be dropped off for processing today with scheduled parcel pickup services. They're also back. Right now it's 5:17, holding at 2 below zero, but feeling more like 6 below outside. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. And the man accused of fatally shooting the CEO of United Healthcare returned to court today. We're going to have more on this after the break. Hundreds of flowers have been laid near the scene of the deadly Christmas market attack in Magdeburg, Germany. Investigators are still looking into the exact motive behind the attack that killed 5 people and injured 200. The suspect is a Saudi doctor who arrived in Germany in 2006 and became a permanent resident. Police say that he does not fit the usual profile of perpetrators of extremist attacks. He had been identified by authorities in the past for threatening behavior and been the subject of tip-offs, but was not known to have committed any violence. And south of the border, a man's in custody suspected of lighting a woman on fire on a New York City subway car.
We were able to make a quick arrest on this nothing less than heinous crime that occurred in our subway system.
Well, the murder was caught on video, and police say that the accused and victim do not know each other. The woman may have fallen asleep on the subway before being intentionally lit on fire. This happened Sunday morning. Well, the man accused of fatally shooting the CEO of United Healthcare has pleaded not guilty on state murder and terror charges. Luigi Mangione was formally charged last week by the Manhattan DA with multiple counts of murder, including murder as an act of terrorism. That case will run parallel to his federal case. His court appearance was preempted by federal prosecutors bringing their own charges. The federal charges could carry the possibility of the death penalty, while the maximum sentence for state charges are life in prison without parole. And U.S. President Joe Biden announced this morning that he's taken 37 people off of the death row to serve out life sentences behind bars. The decision leaves only 3 federal prisoners awaiting execution when President-elect Donald Trump takes office next month. In a statement, Biden says that he's commuting the sentences to life terms without the possibility of parole. The president did not commute the sentences of 3 people whose crimes included mass shootings or acts of terrorism. Well, Nissan and Honda have announced plans to work towards a merger that would make them the number 3 auto manufacturer in the world. And CTV's Mike Lacouture has more on the talks and what it could mean for Canadian consumers.
The CEOs of Honda and Nissan were blunt. This is not a bailout. Instead, they're looking at joining forces to fight the emerging threat from China and its burgeoning electric vehicle industry. We believe we must build up capabilities to fight them, including the current emerging forces by 2030, says Honda CEO, adding otherwise, we will be beaten. If they do merge, it would create the 3rd largest automotive group in terms of sales, behind Toyota and Volkswagen. It would put the combined company in a better position to compete with Tesla and Chinese-owned BYD.
They've built up the plants in China to the point where they have saturated their market, and now in order to keep the plants going, they need to export.
Still, the former CEO of Nissan doesn't see these talks going anywhere because the companies don't complement each other.
They are strong in the same fields. They are weak in the same fields. Both of them have very developed technologies. That means from an industrial point of view, There is duplication everywhere.
A merger of the three would be the largest shift in the automotive landscape since Fiat Chrysler and the PSA Group became Stellantis. Experts say that consolidation is a trend.
But it's also an effort to bulk up and gear up for what's coming down the pipe, which is this incredible transformation that's going on in terms of the shift towards EVs.
A merger could mean fewer models produced, but higher quality.
We may see better product from Honda and Nissan as they share components and development.
The three companies are aiming to have a formal merger agreement in the next 6 months and complete the deal by August of 2026. Michael Couture, CTV News, Ottawa.
It's 5:24, holding at 2 below zero. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. More news straight ahead. Stay with us. And the Raptors are in New York tonight, looking to bounce back from a loss at home to the Houston Rockets and a familiar face.
Van Vliet gets his first made field goal.
Yeah, Fred VanVleet played his former team for the first time since leaving the Raptors in 2023. He was injured when Houston visited Toronto last season. The Rockets went on to beat Toronto 114-110 last night. VanVleet spoke to TSN before the game.
A lot of memories, a lot of good basketball was played here, big games, big moments, heartbreak. So, yeah, definitely ups and downs and just a lot of great memories. Good basketball was played. And like I said, just coming back and being able to soak it all in is always, a good treat for me.
We're about a couple of hours away from tip-off for the Raptors and the Knicks, which is at 7:30 tonight. Well, Shohei Ohtani has been named the Associated Press Male Athlete of the Year for a third time. That ties him with Michael Jordan and puts him just one back from Lance Armstrong, Tiger Woods, and LeBron James, who each won the award 4 times. Ohtani earned his 3rd MVP award after helping the Dodgers win their 8th World Series title. Ohtani hit 54 home runs and stole 59 bases as the first player with a 50-50 season. It's 5:28, holding at 2 below zero, feeling more like 6 below outside. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. I'll look at this evening's top stories when we come back. The GTA is under a winter weather travel advisory. Here's a live look at Nathan Phillips Square. Some areas could see between 5 to 15 centimeters of snow. We continue our live coverage with CP24's Melissa Duggan. And a driver has had their license suspended after their car ended up in a river near Peterborough. Well, the percentage of staff in Ontario childcare centres who are registered early childhood educators has been declining over the past 2 years. This is according to a new report. CP24's Andrew Brennan is going to have reaction. Right now, it's 5:30, holding at 2 below zero. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage. Well, the winter weather travel advisory, it's in effect for the GTA as the last-minute holiday shopping rush continues. CP24's Melissa Duggan joins us live with more. Melissa.
Hey, Bakari. So really, the forecast has been bang on so far. We saw the first round of snow as expected earlier today. And now that second round of snow, it is here. And as you said, between 5 to 15 centimeters is what we're expecting before it's all done as that snow continues overnight into the morning. And we've been keeping a watch on this roadway behind me. I'm in Scarborough. This is McNichol here. We've been watching that snow accumulate. You can hear it, too, and that kickback from vehicles as they drive by here. So we are starting to see that accumulate on roadways. So something to keep in mind if you are heading out just as we're in the evening rush. So the timing not ideal for this situation. But we were talking with the city earlier. They say they were prepared for this. Their vehicles are out there to clean things up. Have a listen.
We've had our meetings with our staff. We've called in all our crews. We've met with our contractors. And we've actually started activating earlier this afternoon. So we have all of our equipment already. That's 1,400 pieces of equipment to service all the infrastructure. And we began servicing the roads and cycling infrastructure approximately around noon, 1 o'clock. So we have the first round of equipment out there, and they'll be working all through the day into the evening and possibly into the overnight in the morning.
Now, the heads up we're getting from Environment Canada about that winter travel advisory, they're saying that travel on roadways could sometimes be hazardous, that visibility could be an issue into the evening hours as we see the snow really pick up. It could turn to flurries by tomorrow morning. There's a chance maybe of some freezing conditions as well, so something to keep in mind. But when you add this all up, it looks like we're going to be seeing a white Christmas here, which does not always happen in the GTA. Here is Dave Phillips from Environment Canada.
Back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, it was like in Toronto about a 68, 70% chance for a white Christmas. Now it's dropped down to 40%. So, we have seen, for example, in the last 10 years, we've had 7 green and 3 white. So, it used to be we could dream about a white Christmas. Now we have to pray for one. It just doesn't seem to happen because of climate change, because our winters are warmer, particularly at the beginning part. It's just a little hard to get that snow and keep it.
But the good news, all that snow angels, no problem. You could even do some snowmen, I'm thinking, too. So take advantage of it while you can. I'm going to toss it back to you, Bakari.
Hey, Melissa.
Beautiful.
I hope that you can hear me because on behalf of the control room, which is right next door, bravo. Bravo, my friend. Very good.
Back at you,
Very
Bakari.
Good. All right, chatting a little bit. CP24's Melissa Duggan. Well, you also heard Melissa mention travel. It's another busy holiday travel day at Pearson Airport. More snow's on the way, but the airport, they say they're prepared.
We are at the airfield maintenance facility, which is home to over 100 pieces of snow removal equipment. Now, just behind me is one of our plow sweeper blowers that will be deployed today on our apron, runways, and taxiways to clear the several centimeters of snow that we are expecting. Now, to our passengers, if you are planning on traveling today, we encourage you to check your flight status before coming to the airport. And of course, give yourself plenty of extra time to arrive here.
Okay, looking at the numbers, Pearson's expecting 127,000 passengers to pass through the airport. That's just today. Well, the TTC says that it's prepared for today's snowfall with extra employees and maintenance staff on duty. Extra buses, they're going to be deployed on certain routes if necessary. And some bus stops, many on hills, they may be taken out of service depending on the conditions. And all warming centers across the city are now closed. The 4 centers were open the past several days because of the cold. In an online message, the city says that staff are working to refer vulnerable individuals to alternate spaces in the shelter system. The warming centers provide access to rest areas, meals, and referrals to emergency shelters for those experiencing homelessness. And tackling homelessness, it's one of the mayor of Oshawa's biggest priorities going into 2025. And CP24 spoke with Dan Carter about what he's doing to tackle the crisis.
We're seeing our overdose count has gone down quite a bit in the last 6 months or so, which I'm really pleased about. We're trying to figure out why that is, what is happening on the streets, working with our outreach workers, but we keep track on it. Every Tuesday, I do a security call with all of our teams. We come together, we share the information, and we continue to be able to find out where the new hotspots are if there is a new issue that we're facing. So we're glad to see the numbers going down. We still have a major issue in regards to those that don't have proper shelter, and we still have individuals that need proper care when it comes to their addiction issues and mental health issues.
And Oshawa's mayor says that healthcare is also a big focus for him and other big city mayors and going into next year as the system is getting pushed to its limits. A Ministry of Education report shows that the percentage of staff in Ontario childcare centres who are early childhood educators has been declining over the past few years. CP24's Andrew Brennan joins us live from the newsroom with more. Andrew, you've been speaking with quite a few people to get reaction to this.
Yeah, Bakari, and we've been speaking with a lot of different attempting to at least try to get as many people's perspectives as possible. This is an industry that's not only growing, and forgive the pun when it comes to people, kids growing up. the industry itself is seeing its growing pains. But on the other hand, there's also the changes that have come with $10 a day daycare, and that's expanded this need for a lot of families quite a bit and making it that much more affordable for people. But with that, there's been about 27,000 almost, or just a little over than that, net new spaces made since $10 a day daycare came to Ontario. It's not at, of course, $10 a day yet. We're getting there in 2026. But for now, with the added kids, the amount of registered ECEs, registered early childhood educators, isn't keeping up. You're basically seeing roughly one new registered ECE for every 8, almost 9 children that are going into daycare. So what we're also seeing is the amounts that are leaving the profession just after arrival. And one of the big contributors to that, we've been told by people including Andrea Hannon, who is the director of the Daycare Operators Association for Ontario, is pay. This is a pay that right now is at $23.86 as a wage floor, going up $1 in the new year, but that doesn't translate to people wanting to stick around.
It's multifaceted. There are quite a few things. One is recruitment, of course, and recruitment is always a challenge. It's a demanding work environment, childcare, and also, it isn't the highest paid occupation in the world. So certainly it is demanding, but we also have retention issues. And again, that's got to do with wages and working conditions and other factors as well, in that it's long working hours and emotionally quite demanding.
Well, now, we've also heard from people like Andrea saying that the other challenge is looking at the $10 a day program in and of itself. Now, that's a larger conversation, Bakari. The big thing that we'll leave people with right now is, well, daycare is more affordable. The question is how are you going to have people that will actually run these daycares, or are those ECEs helping the most youngest and littlest among us learn to be, better adults? Back to you.
Well, hopefully. CP24's Andrew Brennan live from the newsroom. Thanks, Andrew. With that, we're now at 5:39, holding at 2 below zero. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. Books of condolences are now available to honor Detective John Park. More on this just ahead. A raccoon's in the care of Animal Services after police dismantle an encampment in Hamilton. It was found roaming around in the encampment in Montgomery Park. And police said that the encampment also had a generator and a TV. A 36-year-old man was arrested nearby and is facing several drugs and weapons-related charges, as well as a charge for keeping a prohibited animal against city bylaws. Books of condolences are available for the public to sign for Toronto Police Detective John Park. Park died of a medical episode while on duty last week. He leaves behind a wife and 2 young children. Park, who was 40, had been with the police service for 14 years, starting at 22 Division and rising to the rank of detective. And the books are available at police headquarters as well as 22 and 33 divisions. And a Durham police officer has been released from hospital after being exposed to fentanyl while responding to a call. This happened yesterday around 4 o'clock in the afternoon at the Simcoe Street South and Albany Street area in Oshawa. Officers were originally called for a trespasser and reportedly found a suspect who had previously been banned from a business. While arresting the suspect, the officer was exposed to fentanyl. And Peel police are searching for a suspect in a shooting from earlier this year. 25-year-old Niall Tyrese Hill from Welland is being sought in the shooting on January 25th. A woman in her 20s was treated for injuries after she was shot at a hotel on Nexus Avenue in Brampton. Hill's wanted on a number of charges, including assault with a weapon and aggravated assault. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. A 17-year-old driver has had their license suspended after their car ended up in a river near Peterborough. First responders had large chunks of ice to contend with as they tried to make sure that no one was in the vehicle or the frigid water around it. This was late last night. The driver was able to get out on their own, and police located him at an address in Lakefield. OPP said that the driver registered an alert when screened by police and was issued a 3-day suspension. No one else was injured in the crash. Well, the investigation continues into a jewelry store robbery that left one person injured. It happened shortly before 5:30 in the evening. This was yesterday in the area of Islington Avenue and Albion Road. Police say that the suspects used a vehicle to break into the front of the store, and they took several items before leaving. One person was inside the store at the time and was transported to hospital. And then there's this, a shocking robbery at a jewelry store in Montreal. This was caught on camera. Thieves plowed their SUV into the business, and then they used sledgehammers to smash cases, all while a horrified customer looked on. CTV's Stéphane Giroux reports.
The crash caught staff and customers by surprise, but owner Gaganjit Singh knew he was facing a robbery and decided to confront the three armed attackers. In less than a minute, the thieves ran out with tens of thousands of dollars worth of gold. They smashed every counter as one customer stood back in fear. Singh says his survival instinct kicked in and he fought back.
Yeah, then I just tried to hit them like they should go out, but they guys came in with a big hammer, rods, guns. It's hard for me to only I'm the one who is here.
Singh says once the thieves left, he discovered one of his staffers trapped under the rubble.
So she's underneath the counters, and after 15 minutes, we pull her out from the counters, and like she was, thanks God, like she was just sitting on the floor. If she is standing, she was killed. For sure I know.
Montreal police haven't made any arrests yet, but hope someone will identify the suspects on the video, described as one white and two black males. They left the SUV behind as they ran from the scene.
It's still under the investigation now, trying to figure out if it's stolen or not, but we cannot confirm that. Like I said, the investigation is just at the beginning for now.
Singh says he felt something was off in recent days when he saw one person filming the business from outside and another one coming in and out of the store as if he was scoping the place out. 600 kilometers away in Toronto, Singh's father saw everything as it happened as the panic button triggered the live video feed on his phone. He took the first flight to Montreal. We came to this country because it's a good country, he says, but right now we don't feel safe. While police say they fully understand why someone would want to protect his family and his business, they also warn about confronting attackers.
But we do not recommend to act like this just for the safety of the person.
Singh suffered minor injuries, but his priority now is to protect his family. Stéphane Giroux, CTV News.
It's 5:47, holding at 2 below. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. And coming up, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau chaired today's meeting of the Cabinet Committee on Canada-U.S. relations, despite increasing calls for him to leave office. The Cabinet Committee on Canada-U.S. relations met today with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau helming the agenda. The committee's back following the re-election of Donald Trump, who's threatened to impose 25% tariffs on Canadian products once he returns to the White House next month. Trump has commented about lax border controls, as well as Canada taking advantage of the U.S. when it comes to trade deals. Well, it's now been a week since the shocking resignation of Chrystia Freeland, throwing Trudeau's government into fresh disarray. The calls for him to step down have only grown louder since then. CTV News' Rachel Aiello has been tracking the latest.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Those were the Prime Minister's parting words when he left Parliament Hill on Friday. With questions still swirling about Justin Trudeau's next steps, the Globe and Mail is reporting that he does not intend to step down over the holidays. Instead, the embattled Liberal leader intends to go on a trip with his family to British Columbia. While Trudeau may have plans to hit the slopes, calls have been mounting all week from within his caucus for him to take a walk in the snow.
I think people feel very negatively, or rather negatively, about all the options on the ballot if we were to have an election right now. And it would be nice to offer them somebody to vote for as opposed to against.
Ontario caucus members met virtually over the weekend, and of the more than 50 MPs said to be on the call, Liberals say not a single participant spoke in favour of Trudeau staying on. Since Chrystia Freeland's bombshell resignation 1 week ago, Trudeau has been seeking advice from those he trusts about next steps. Meanwhile, in a fresh fundraising email to supporters noting that this is going to be the last Christmas before the next campaign, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said his party has never been closer to defeating what he calls the NDP Liberal coalition. With Donald Trump taking office in less than a month, today Trudeau's itinerary had him taking part in a closed-door meeting of his special cabinet committee on Canada-U.S. relations. Though political observers say that while he may be planning Canada's counter to tariffs, it remains to be seen if Trudeau will still be the Prime Minister by the time they're imposed.
There's definitely a prospect of him stepping down after the holidays. I don't think there's much prospect of him remaining in office. I just don't know how he's going to be able to continue on. If he were to poke up on, say, January 6th and say, after this long period of studied silence, I've decided to remain, I'm the best choice, and I'm rallying the party behind me, he will find that the party is not there to be rallied.
A GDP number showed that the economy was stronger than expected in October. And Canada's real gross domestic product increased by 0.3% in October, with oil and gas leading the growth. Statistics Canada reports that good-producing industries, mining, as well as oil and gas extraction, rose by 0.9% after shrinking for 4 consecutive months. Manufacturing also rose 0.3%.
I think this does point towards additional rate declines in the new year in 2025 by the Bank of Canada. I don't think we'll see those so-called mega or jumbo declines next time, meaning we won't see a 0.5 decline, but more likely to see a 0.25 decline in January, followed by the next rate cut or the next announcement after that. So I think we're going to see rates drop down into the 2 range. Because there's still a lot of softness in the economy. And so this is the good news that Canadians can look forward to in 2025.
Well, stronger than the expected start to the fourth quarter may help calm some of the concerns about the strength of the Canadian economy. It's 5:54, holding at 2 below zero. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. The Maple Leafs hosted the Winnipeg Jets in their final match before the holiday break. We're going to have the highlights next. The Leafs played a rare Monday afternoon game, their final match before the holiday break.
Nylander, Mitch Marner directed it through, and they score. And it's Tavares again against the Jets, and it's 2-1.
Yeah, that was the first of 2 goals by John Tavares, but that was all they scored. Mark Scheifele had a hat trick and an assist for the visiting Jets, and they downed the Leafs 5-2. Winnipeg's now in top spot in the NHL. The Leafs were without injured captain Austin Matthews. Their next game is Friday in Detroit.
So you need to have a proper brush, a proper scraper, and commit yourself to clearing off the entire car. I see people that are remind me of my old Army days. They scraped off this much space in front of their window, and the rest of it is sealed up. So clear your full car. Plan properly. If you're already 20 minutes late getting on the road, you will not.
And that was just a little reminder about the weather alert that's happening. Other Raptors are in New York tonight, looking to bounce back from a loss at home to the Houston Rockets, and a familiar face.
Van Vliet gets his first made field goal.
Yeah, Fred VanVleet played his former team for the first time since leaving the Raptors in 2023. He was injured when Houston visited Toronto last season. The Rockets went on to beat Toronto 114-110 last night. VanVleet spoke to TSN before the game.
A lot of memories, a lot of good basketball was played here, big games, big moments, heartbreak. So, yeah, definitely ups and downs and just a lot of great memories. Good basketball was played. And like I said, just coming back and being able to soak it all in is always, a good treat for me.
And tip-off for the Raptors and the Knicks. That's happening at 7:30. Right now it's 5:59, holding at 2 below zero. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. Thank you for watching. CTV News at 6 is next.